Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.
It's a snapshot of time.
That's it?
I think so. I'm a simple thinker, man.
Scott. Scott Boudreau. I'm saying your last name okay? Boudreau?
Yeah, that's my name.
Okay, man. So, Scott, thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, it's great. So basically, we're going to get to this question of if life is a gift, how do we make every second count? Given how we met, man, I know this is going to be fun.
Oh, yeah. 1 second.
Sure. You have a nice mic. Welcome
Check 1,
back.
2. You still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just great. Okay, Scott. Well, really good to meet to have you on the podcast. So we met in Vancouver on the mats, and we're gonna get right into it. Thank you.
Let's do it.
And yeah, I don't look at them beforehand, so I have no idea what you sent. Let's check it out.
Oh, is that right? This is like a surprise.
Yeah. So it's a surprise, and then everybody sort of I have to describe them. And look, I mean, some people love this format, and it's part of the surprise. So in this case, it's not a photo. I'm looking at a logo, and it's super dramatic, beautifully done. Did you make this logo?
Does it say Northwest?
It says Northwest Jiu-Jitsu Academy.
Okay, there you go. No, that's not my logo at all. We've just partnered up with a team, and BUDO, which is my club, is now associated with Northwest Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
Just recently. So yeah,
Okay.
that's news for me and the gym.
Okay, so the logo is okay. So basically, there's the background is a black circle. It says Northwest Jiu-Jitsu Academy, established 1999. So it's black, white, and red. It's very dramatic. The figure has a kind of a classic pose. What's the stance that you'd say that pose is?
I think it's interesting. The pose, that little cartoon is actually Brian Johnson. He's the leader of the team.
Mm-hmm.
That's his brand.
Okay.
So that's a cartoon of him. So that stance is like you're on the ground. Obviously, the guy's on the ground, and it looks like he's ready to just grab you and take over your life a little bit.
Okay, so let's dive into this, man. Okay, so
Sure.
This is a new kind of association for the gym, or why is this significant?
Well, like I've always, for the longest time, never really directly associated to any teams. I've always just run the gym on my own. I had my instructor Don Whitefield and West Coast. I was, we're kind of loosely affiliated to West Coast, but I never felt part of a bigger team. And after meeting Brian and and Perry Bateson too, like these guys are good friends of mine, and Perry's always been his instructor is Brian. And I gave it some thought. I'm like, geez, what can I do better for the club and my students is expand the team a little bit and open it up. And I thought it'd be nice. I think the core values that we share are very similar. It's all about training together and enjoying each other's company. So right now, Brian has got, so we'd be the 8th club that he has associated under him.
Okay.
He's based not too far. So this is what's different from like a big association. You could go, I could have gone with Gracie Baja or Alliance or Atos or Checkmat. There's so many big names out there, and headquarters is always like in Los Angeles or New York or Brazil. But, Brian is just like in Seattle. He's so close. So, being able to contribute and collaborate with, it's just an opportunity. It's like not a huge team. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a medium-sized team, and everyone's very close. I just think it's kind of cool. It's unique.
Mm-hmm. Okay, okay, we met through BUDO. So why don't
Yeah.
you promote the gym for a second? So what is BUDO for the
Oh,
listener?
okay. Our gym it's a facility where we teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the art itself, and it's an open door. We're not a formal martial art gym. It's very like, hey, come as you are. There's no gi policy and all that kind of stuff. It's purely about learning the art of jiu-jitsu, the techniques, and it's about the atmosphere as well. The friendship and just a good vibe, which is not enforced on people. It's just created by the students themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically the easiest way to explain the gym and how
Sure.
it's just mats and people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you. Okay, so like in how we intersected. Okay, so I come to Canada. Trained a little bit in Hong Kong. I come to Canada, land in Toronto. I go to this massive facility in Toronto. I don't remember the name of the place, but it's absolutely huge. I mean, they had something like 100 black belts at that gym. It's just huge.
100 black belts.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I mean, they had 3 floors, a massive, massive facility, and there's the vibe. Okay, which is great. And then I come to Vancouver, and I trained at one place, and I trained with Hemant at his place. Out in well, it's not his, but like out in New Westminster. And then I think I tried one other place, and then he because Hemant said, "Oh, go try the gym with Scott," and I was like, "Okay." And I came over, and sure enough, so why don't you talk about, like, for somebody who's never tried jujitsu, what is it about practice and everything that appealed to you way back when so much that you went all in, and now
Okay, yeah. The reason why I started jujitsu, for me the interest of jujitsu started when I was watching the very first UFCs.
hmm
I remember at that time I must have been like 20 or 21. The very first UFC, I think I must have watched UFC 2 live,
oh
and
wow,
I was blown away. I was a karate black belt
okay,
and doing Kyokushin karate. So I was deep into martial arts and loved it. I've been doing that kind of stuff since 9 years old.
hmm
So just watching this, because I knew there was Kyokushin karate fighters in the UFC fighting, and just watching Hoist Gracie do his thing with the gi on, and just completely controlling people fascinated me.
hmm
So from I was fascinated with jiu-jitsu from that point. There was no gym in Vancouver to learn jiu-jitsu at that time. So there's a few times I would just roll with friends in the living room, just
hmm
like pretend we're always Gracie or whatever.
yeah,
we
yeah,
just
yeah,
we don't know what the hell we're doing at all. Just
hmm
getting like rug burn. But years passed, and finally, Mike Hansen, my old business partner, introduced me to Don Whitefield. He was a brown belt at the time and teaching jiu-jitsu class in Burnaby. And I tried it. I'm like, okay, yeah, I've always been intrigued. Let's go to an actual jiu-jitsu gym and let's try this for real.
hmm
And I got my ass kicked so bad. Uh, I
yep,
remember tapping. I was tapping from exhaustion when someone mounted me.
hmm
Just like, I was like, what the hell?
yeah,
So immediately, right after that class, I told myself that I gotta learn this. I'm totally gonna put all as much time as possible into jujitsu and learn it. I immediately got hooked, like
wow,
right away. Yeah, and I started training like at least 3 times a week, and pretty quick.
hmm
I was doing 5, 6 times a week.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely a humbling. Like, it's really fun because I think most people who come to BJJ kind of immediately figure out, oh, okay, this is something that you're going to suck at in a big, like, you're going to suck for a long time, and it's such
Yeah.
a humbling experience. Like, it's just it's learning a new language that's so unique. So how does that connect to your partnership with Northwest Jiu-Jitsu, right? Because I'm looking at the logo right now, and
yeah,
so why don't you talk about?
sure. We're on the topic of Northwest.
Yeah,
Well, you see, like my background is a very formal martial art, Kyokushin karate.
yep.
You stand in line. You don't talk to the black belts. That kind of stuff. Like in the military, and that's all I knew.
Mm-hmm.
But as I started to learn jujitsu, at first it was very confusing. I'm like, why isn't there a real curriculum? There was, some gyms taught different curriculums from the others, and it was very confusing. And I was like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, as I competed, and I was very serious at becoming better, I learned that jiu-jitsu is way, way deeper than that. It's it's very personal. It's something that you develop for yourself. And so what I'm trying to get at is there's just so many different types of jiu-jitsu gyms.
Mm-hmm.
And to have found a team that has a similar mindset. That just happened now. I'm like a second degree black belt, and I finally found a team where I think, okay, I think we were thinking the same. Jiu-jitsu is very, very wide. It's
Mm-hmm.
grand.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about sharing knowledge, and and just enjoying yourself, and being humble at all belt levels.
Sure.
Yeah. For me, like I'll train with my white belts, blue belts, like everybody. I want to know where they're at. I'll let them attack me. There's just no ego there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big reason why I decided to join the
Mm-hmm.
Northwest team. I think it's just not about making money. It's strictly about just getting better at jiu-jitsu and growing a team and a family.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to interrupt for a second because one of the
Of
things,
course.
okay, coming from Muay Thai, where it's quite informal, and it's all about the energy and the spirit of connection and all this stuff, and then going to different gyms and having trained in many places around the world. One of the things that really surprised me about training in Vancouver, and I don't know what it is, and this is going to be something that's going to make you smile or laugh or whatever, but I can't get over how much ego happens in Vancouver. And the reason
Yeah.
why I liked your gym was because it didn't have that,
Oh
you
man,
know?
thanks so much for that. That means a lot. I don't get the chance to visit all the other gyms in the area. I
Hmm.
just kind of know what I'm doing, and I just hear what from other
Yeah, I don't
people like
know. I
yourself.
don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about Vancouver, what it is about the mentality that it's not very humble, and it's a lot of ego, and I don't and it's not it's something that spills over from the community, from the broader community. It's not jujitsu. It's
Interesting.
I can't put my finger on why that is. Is it because of the
Yeah.
movies industry that makes people really like a certain slice of people really kind of, I don't know, man. Like it really blew me away.
Yeah, maybe in Vancouver people are easily influenced, and they just want to be like whatever that they really like outside there. They see
Maybe.
something they really like and they try to just copy it, and they're very stubborn about it. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Mm-hmm. But like BUDO, like this is a big ad for sure for your gym. I really enjoyed.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, it's great, really great.
I'm always very happy to go to the gym and train and
Mm-hmm.
be around the people. Like it's just like a good feeling. I never feel like I'm an authority. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
I'm going there to teach, but I do something before my classes. I ask questions.
Yep.
I do a Q&A, and I don't
Yeah.
care if I don't know the answer. Other people in class can share, and we just figure it out for people, right?
Yeah. No, it's cool. That's a really interesting feature of your classes of just starting with a Q&A.
Yeah, start with a Q&A and just like whatever, let's go. Let's figure out these problems everybody's having with their jiu-jitsu and try to solve it, and just makes it easier, less stressful for me anyways. You know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, do you want to move on to the next photo?
Let's do it.
Okay, so the image is it's a composite. It's like an ad almost, or it's like a poster.
Oh yeah,
It's in black and white.
yeah.
Two primary photos. So on the top is a photo that the first time I saw this in a cop like I think in UFC, I was kind of taken aback. But anyway, on top there's a logo AVA. And then two guys are in a kind of jujitsu sort of position where one guy is clearly smothering, like having his hand over the mouth and the nose of the other combatant. And then underneath that says new, all smothers permitted. And then underneath that is a guy basically in looks like full mount, overwhelming some other guy. Again, black and white. Whew, okay, all smothers permitted. What is this?
AVA is a tournament league, and it's a submission only tournament league that I run along with a couple other people, and it's pretty wild actually. My approach with this tournament is to offer pure grappling, where points doesn't matter. It's all about submission. That's it. And I'm very open to listen to competitors. And so the rules we can change around because we're not BJJF or following anybody like ADCC. We're not following no one else's rule set. We're just kind of doing our own. And which is fun because there's some things that disagree with, I compete in the BJJF and I respect our rules. And when I compete, that's fine. I just go and I do the thing. I don't complain about anything. I just follow the rules and compete in that way. And I train to compete in those rules. But for my own tournament, I like to make it so like the smother. Why is that not allowed in a lot of leagues? So I listen to competitors and coaches and make a decision based on that. So just that picture started with. I just suddenly all of us I had a lot of competitors asking because we have a tournament coming up on March the 4th, and a lot of competitors are asking like, hey, are we allowed to do this smother? Am I going to get disqualified? Because that's in the rule set it's a DQ if you block the airway. Mm-hmm. It's only allowed at the pro level. So I had to clarify it in a social media post. I had to say this is not allowed. Just to be clear, it's only allowed for pros. All the comments, people went a little, start to express their opinions about it. All of it was pro smother. Mm-hmm. And I had to, it got me thinking like, okay, what's blocking the airways? Why not? And, you can hold your breath. If you're a good swimmer, you can probably hold your breath for a good minute.
Yeah.
So it's probably safer than a blood choke. I think a blood choke, you have about 20 seconds and you fall asleep.
Yeah.
And the airway choke is it's going to depend on your cardio.
Yeah.
But it looks funky. I mean, like I think that's like I always wondered why does it look like unethical to choke someone with covering their airways? If that's the case, well, who cares? I think you need to learn how to defend that stuff anyways. You're learning a martial art where you're supposed to defend yourself. I mean, that's something someone may do. They may cover your mouth and your nose.
But okay, so I think the first time I saw that in a competition was John Jones fighting, I think Cormier or something, and I think that was a fight. Anyways, it was something, and then sure enough, he covered his face, like his mouth and his nose, and I remember my visceral reaction because it was the first time I'd seen it in a competition. And I was just like, "What?" I was just like, I was shocked, and of course you compare it to like what is a submission in BJJ where you're basically doing a blood choke. You're basically cutting off the blood supply to the person's brain. And then it's so funny that the phrase is, "Oh, you go to sleep," makes it sound so innocuous. It's like, well, you're making them unconscious. It's like you have to stop quickly because it can get quite dangerous. So okay, smothers, yeah, like
people train these as techniques, like using their chest. the people actually train this. They shove the person's face onto their chest and just block their nose and their mouths and just like suffocate them. Like these are actual techniques that people practice for certain professional leagues.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it very amusing myself. I think it's kind of funny. You know, I've been training that in class actually lately. I've been actually doing a lot of like smothers, like the blocking their face, and it's hilarious. We both have a laugh. Like
Okay.
I'm blocking, and they're like shaking their heads and they're freaking out. It's kind of funny.
It's really funny. Here's the thing: somebody who listens to just that might jump to certain conclusions about what you're like, and you're a sensitive, sweet man. Like, it's weird.
Of course. Yeah, but I mean, I'm being friendly when I do it.
Yeah.
You know? I guarantee there's no pain involved. Just a little bit of panic.
Sure.
You know, that's what happens. People panic a little bit with, you know, their mouths and nose covered. They're like, oh shit, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
But anyways, you know, like with AVA, we made a decision. I think it's a really good decision. We're going to allow it for all belt levels, 16 years old plus.
Mm-hmm.
And see how it goes. Like, see how creative people will be. I think it's interesting. I've been seeing a lot of people posting themselves training with doing smothers, and they're really preparing for it. So I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of attempts for it.
Right. So do you feel that it adds so for example, some things come into fashion, right? So for example, I think some people are saying that now a huge shift in how people are doing maybe no gi versus gi, but is things like leg locks, right? It's kind of like, it seems to be a fashion, you know, it's coming in. So do you feel that smothers are kind of like a fashion?
I hope so. And I hope that, you know, AVA is contributing to the fashion. We're definitely supporting that submission. I think it's amazing. Like it's just, I think it's a great setup for rear naked chokes, for example. Mm-hmm. It's a great setup for a lot of different things. Even, you know, it doesn't need to be the end of this, you know, the actual submission. It just creates like a huge reaction from the defender.
Right.
And I think people will be creative and probably find different ways to do it by using different parts of the body, you know, not just the hands.
Yeah.
Or the chest. You know, I'm sure you could probably find some way to do it with the legs. I don't know, some kind of triangle. Who knows? I don't know. My mind is like, I can think of some weird ways.
the crotch smother. For sure.
Yeah, just sit on someone's face, like block the airway that way.
The taint.
Oh my god, the taint. Oh man, we shouldn't be talking about that. People are gonna try it.
Really?
They're gonna actually try it, and no one's gonna come compete. They're gonna be like, we don't want anyone to take a picture of that. No one wants to be on the receiving end.
So somebody listening to this who's never done BJJ is going to be obviously like turned off, because it's like there's something kind of it's violent, it's combat, so what's the appeal then? So how do you win somebody over?
it's the jiu-jitsu is a hard sell. You need to, you know, it really depends what the person wants. I don't know, I don't know. I think if you're honest with them, it's a hard sell. It's going to be, it depends on how sensitive the person is. Some people are like, in their minds, they're like, oh yeah, I would love to do this. Then their egos get shattered. And then they can't come back because they're just like, they're like, no way, I'm not going to spend 2 years to learn how to do this before I can do okay. Yeah. So that turns people off. Some people that are really fragile may think, oh, it's a good idea for self-defense, you know, especially like small women. Probably a reason why so many women don't do jiu-jitsu, which they should. I really think they should.
Me too.
I mean, a lot of them come in and try and they realize, oh shit, man, I don't feel like doing this on a regular basis. You know, coming in and like rolling with sweaty guys and getting smashed all the time. So I think it takes tenacity. So, I mean, a good way to sell it is that it's safe. Actually, I know we talk about these really brutal looking submissions, but it's all safe. I mean, for the most part. I mean, at first, your body doesn't know how to move with jiu-jitsu. So that's why you probably start with getting a lot of injuries in the first few months, maybe a year. And but that goes away as you learn how to your body just learns how to move the way it's supposed to, and
Yeah.
the injuries go way down. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just yeah, I guess that's the sell. It's like it's the gentle art. It's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you gotta. It's for the person who is looking for a place to kind of like be with people they like.
Mm-hmm.
You develop naturally like a bit of a friendship with a team.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a social thing too.
Yep.
People need other people, and it's a fun way. Like try to kill each other and and laugh about it. Hopefully, you can laugh
Sure.
about it.
Want to move on to the next photo? All
Sure.
smothers permitted. It's pretty
All
brutal.
smothers permitted. Hopefully, we can bring that down to the kids division eventually.
Oh, well, I can imagine a parent listening to that going like, no,
No.
no.
But I guarantee there'll be some going, yeah,
Yeah,
that
okay.
should be permitted.
Sure. Well, I mean, if you're allowed to do things like a rear naked choke, or if you're allowed to do like, well, basically, so many of the submissions are basically where you tap somebody out. Maybe you're okay. So yeah, some of them it's like you're holding their arm in like an arm bar that'll could potentially break their elbows, so the person taps out. But in a submission like a choke, it's kind of like it's a choke.
Yeah, what's the difference between? Well, there is a difference between air and blood. I still think, blocking the airway.
I think the blood is
The blood is a lot more dangerous. It's quicker,
yeah.
and like I said, like the air, it depends on your fitness level.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's yeah. We'll see what happens.
There definitely is something visceral when you see that happening for the first time, or at least I'm just for me it will. I was just like, oh man, yeah,
I know those are moves for ninjas.
yeah.
Those are moves you learn if you're a ninja. At nighttime, you got to go around and make sure they're quiet, right? And when you put them to sleep, you go to.
Oh, look at this. Okay, so this is a photo in a competition where there's
Oh,
somebody walking in a blue red gi. So it's a BJJ or could be judo or karate, uniform. He's lifting his arm up. Is this you? Because I can't see the
that's me,
face very
man.
well. That's you.
That's me. Yeah, I
Lift
thought
up
I'd
your
throw
arm.
that in there.
Okay, but of course, throwing your arm up in victory. The ref is wearing a suit, which I think is and this is an
Mm,
IBJJF photo
yeah. So I compete regularly. I thought I'd throw that in there. It's
for
part of my
sure,
life.
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so how old were you the first time you had a competition?
In jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
34 or
Okay.
35.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how old are you now?
49.
Nice, respect. And when was this
Yeah.
photo done?
That's from a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah. That particular tournament was the International Masters in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it's that particular tournament is not like the world's necessarily. The IBJJF decided to tie in the International Masters to the World Adults tournament, which I think it's a good idea because you have all the coaches show up to coach their students, but they get a chance to compete
Mm.
before the actual Worlds. This is kind of like the little pre-Worlds tournament before the big adults division,
Okay.
Worlds division. So it's a little competitive. It's not as competitive as the Pans or the World Masters, but it's pretty cool. Like I forget how many people were in my division in that particular time,
Mm.
but
Dare I ask how high up you went? How well you did in the competition?
well, I won the gold medal for that tournament.
Oh, nice,
Yeah,
respect.
thanks, man.
So but wait, how many combats was that? Was it two, three?
There's 3.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 fights. Yeah,
Wicked.
so it's not that much. It's good enough to get a you walk away like you got a bit of a workout.
Oh, for sure. This was to submission, like, or this was points. Like, how
Oh, this
long?
is IBJ. Yeah, these are IBJJF points.
Okay. So why don't you explain how this is like? What is the competition usually? Like, how long is the fight? How long? Like,
Yeah, the masters black belts. You get 5 minutes
Okay.
per match. It's based on points, so there's a lot of rules. There's like there must be 50 pages of rules, so I won't get
Wow.
too much into it. But there's the points.
Mm-hmm.
Throwing someone down
Yeah.
is 2 points. Passing their guard, that's 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
Holding the knee on the belly is 2 points, and then getting mount is 4. Taking the back is 4,
Mm-hmm.
and sweeping is 2.
Okay. So it's a long road, long uphill battle with a lot of defeat and setbacks. And so when would you say you had your first moment where you thought, okay, that was a win? that I'm making progress.
Well, I mean, I competed a lot locally as a white belt and blue belt, and my approach in competition, because at that time, like I wasn't spending a lot of time with my instructors. I opened up the BUDO gym in Burnaby as a blue belt, so
Oh, okay.
I was teaching all the time, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to get better and learn? So competing was my way to do that,
Hmm.
and I would take each match and look at my mistakes and fix it.
Hmm.
And from that point on, I thought that was great to do. Like I just did it regularly every year. So I mean, that's when it's not me winning a match or winning or doing well. It was more like, oh, this is what I need to do to get better at jiu-jitsu. So it was never about
Right.
trying to win a championship. Like that's a huge bonus. Of course, it's fun, and it's good to have more than one match. You see, like IBJJF, it's an elimination. When you lose, that's it. You got to walk away. So it pays off to win a few matches, so you can move. You know what it feels like to make it to the finals. For example, there's a level of intensity that is required to move up through your division. So all learning experiences.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, so it's not based on success in the tournament, but more based on how much I've learned.
Right.
Is incredible. I feel like I have a lot to offer to the students, on the technique level or even
Hmm.
competition.
Hmm. Like, one of the things that it does tend to be more males or guys than females. So yeah, as somebody, so for example, as somebody who's done Muay Thai and it's a lot of striking, and trying to sort of teach my daughter who's 11, obviously just the size differential, like, because like in a striking sport, like, I think size and weight and reach are huge advantages. So why don't you talk about why BJJ offers a slightly different solution to that?
Yeah, well, BJJ is based on. I mean, there's a reasonable. I think there's a size difference. Sometimes it's just not gonna, it's
You
not gonna
can't.
make it. Yeah, I can't lie and say, yeah, doesn't matter what size you are. You
Hmm.
can be 80 pounds and you'll beat everybody. It's not
Hmm.
realistic, but it gives you a fighting chance. Uh, just understanding how to leverage someone's body weight
Hmm.
and be efficient with your energy and learning how to stay calm when heavily under pressure is huge value alone.
Hmm.
I don't know if kickboxing or Muay Thai can offer something like that. A striking art.
Hmm.
It's just the grappling is so intense. You can really feel like I'll never forget. When I was doing karate, I must have been like 12 years old, and we had this young wrestler kid come in. He was 14, and it was before class, and he decided to just wrestle me down. And I thought I was not half decent fighter, like
Mm-hmm.
on my feet. I had no idea about wrestling or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like he beat the shit out of me, and I felt so small, man.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling sucked. But I'm sure if I was doing jujitsu, I would feel like a lot more comfortable. Because I mean, like I teach some kids, and sometimes if I put pressure on them, they don't look overly scared. They have
Mm-hmm.
experience. They're used. They're like, oh yeah, this is familiar.
Yeah.
Being like smashed a little bit. It's like, yeah, this sucks, but and they kind of understand there's some techniques that can save them from that pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's pretty deep.
Yeah, it's so for example, I think one of the things that speaking of my kid, my daughter, like okay, here's something that's interesting about being Canadian or North American, right? Where there's baseball and hockey. You know, if you when you grow up in a culture where those sports are there, the idea of the hand-eye coordination of taking a ball and then anticipating and knowing how to throw it, but also how to catch it, with one hand. It's a skill. So what would do with my daughter is I'd have her stand there and I would throw a tennis ball at her head, and I try to hit her head with a tennis ball. And so what I'm trying to do is get her used to this idea of not just closing her eyes and freezing, but to sort of open her eyes and look at the ball coming, and then understanding that she can move her head and anticipate the arc of the ball coming at her head, but also to lift up her hand to protect her face. And similarly, like when you're doing Muay Thai and you're being punched or you're being kicked, it's this idea of unlearning the reaction of closing your eyes and hiding versus okay, you actually open your eyes, you kind of go into the punch, you kind of move, you protect yourself, all this stuff. So in the same way, right, in something like jiu-jitsu where it's kind of like you have somebody better than you just kind of crushing you and locking you all up, which can be a very, the fight or flight instinct is super like kicks in. And so I think for white belts, it's like, it's constant, like, panic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like desensitizing yourself to that. Right. So for example, with kids, when you're teaching them that, how do you get them to just, because what's interesting about your school and your approach is that you do a lot of talking. You really do a lot of like, let's deconstruct this. So how do you deconstruct that as a lesson for somebody to kind of understand that actually you've got time, you can make space.
Yeah.
How do you explain that?
First of all, I always tell new students that the gym is like a laboratory, that there's no shame ever. Is you go there to experiment, and anytime someone is attacking you, you're safe. You just tap.
Hmm.
Tap. The person is going to stop, and then we'll talk about it. And I tell them, you got to learn how to relax. The first lesson in jiu-jitsu is all going to be about surviving and defending someone attacking you. It's the natural progress, and it's
Hmm.
totally okay, and it's important. It's very important to go through that stage, way more than learning a bunch of attacks and always being on the offense. You got to learn how to relax deeply under pressure. And
Hmm.
like even for myself, I put myself there quite often just to remind myself, like, yeah, it's totally cool. Someone's trying to choke me out, no big deal. You know.
Because but in a competition you're going against somebody who's in principle should be matched at who's going to be at your level or above your level or whatever, and then you're right back in that moment where even though you're at this point very competent and very capable, all of a sudden you're facing somebody who's maybe above you and is just is going to really kind of threaten you, and then you have to somehow relax into it to figure
Yeah.
to think your way out of the problem.
Well, I think after years of experience, you realize that it's a technical match. So
Hmm.
emotions have to be put aside.
Okay.
I really believe jujitsu is the more emotional you are towards the fight, the harder it is going to be to think your way through situations.
Mm.
And to remain tactical is a lot more important. And to relax your mind and being playful really helps kind of like having your techniques available to you, because there's so much.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much. If you're very narrow minded, I mean, this is my approach. Like, I'm sure other people have different ways, but my approach is like, if the more relaxed I am,
Mm-hmm.
um, the more information is available to my brain.
Mm-hmm.
The easier it is for me to go, oh yeah, I got this option and that option. I got like 3 options right now, and I'm going to play with this. I'm going to pretend I'm going to go this way, but I'm going to try the other way. And if they don't give me the other way, I'm just going to proceed that one direction.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm under attack, which happens. Like I'm in danger, and then I got to put it in my mind, well, the fight's not over. I got 3 minutes. So I would try
Mm-hmm.
to always have a positive attitude. So there's a lot of self-talk, and it takes a long time to train this, especially
Yeah.
when you're fighting. You're fighting like you're competing against someone very good, and your team is there. You don't want to embarrass yourself. You got to kind of be like, okay, I got to get out of the situation. I have time. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
have time. So it keeps you positive. And then you got to get the hell out of there. So you're in trouble.
Mm.
And again, it's jujitsu. It's totally cool. It's okay.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
lose, you just try to walk away and find out where something went wrong. It's a lot of troubleshooting. And if you
Yeah.
if you have that mindset, I think it's going to help a long-term jiu-jitsu journey.
Sure. Okay, nice. Okay, so this is a photo. I recognize the place. So in the background, you see who did the interior design of the gym?
I did.
You have a great eye. Like it's really
Ah,
like I really appreciate it. So
thanks, man.
the mats are like 18% gray if you're into photography. The on the wall is like also it's mats against the wall. They have the red and white logo of BUDO Jiu-Jitsu. In the foreground, you have somebody wearing a white gi, kind of like looking. He's kind of just kind of watching what's happening, watching the action. And then the principal, the sort of subject of the image is 2 people rolling. Are you in the white gi or is that somebody else?
I think that picture is me teaching class.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So
So
that's me just showing that technique. So I'm not
okay.
really rolling. I'm showing a technique. I guess my purpose of that photo is just, well, I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
So there you go. Something to talk about. That's something I do.
No, it's wicked. It's wicked. So,
Yeah.
so how has your teaching philosophy changed over time?
Well, I started with not having necessarily a philosophy at all, just teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Something I thought I'd like to do. It was more encouraged by friends like, hey, Scott, you should probably think about teaching. I had a day job, and, it was just, I'm like, okay, that's good advice, and I'll give it a shot. So I dove head first
Mm-hmm.
and started teaching, not necessarily knowing who I am as an instructor necessarily, but just knowing that I love martial arts, and that's what I'm going to teach, and I'm going to teach it in the way that it was taught to me.
Okay.
So that was my initial approach. And then of course you learn about yourself, and you bring in your personality and your own beliefs, and that kind of branched off into my own style of teaching. Yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So at the gym, how many instructors are there?
Right now we have one, two, three.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, three plus
Um.
me, so 4 in total.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it only jiu-jitsu or is there MMA and other stuff?
The gym, I lease out the space for kickboxing and Muay Thai. I have nothing to do with it. My
Okay.
Budo is really all about jiu-jitsu.
And so, what was there ever a situation like where you were teaching that really surprised you? It will surprise you, but that you never that it could have been like a really bad situation. It could have been a really great situation. Where it's
Okay.
just like
Oh, yeah. There's the occasional. This is very rare. Sometimes you'll have one guy coming into the gym, just wants to get away from life and just roll, and not, just want to be very technical. While the other guys like, geez, I want to challenge
mm-hmm,
someone.
Okay.
And you get these clashing situations, which are interesting. They're very interesting to me because they get into a thing, right? They get into a little like, oh, what the hell? What are you doing? It's an opportunity to discuss jiu-jitsu and how complicated it is, and how it's important to be aware of other people, not just yourself. You can't be selfish in jiu-jitsu. You got to really be aware, especially if you're going to your gym where it's your team, because everyone is there for a different reason.
Mm-hmm.
And especially the way I operate my gym, it's very like, it's not like you have to fight 110%. You have to. It's not like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about, okay, this person's small. I'm going to practice my techniques and challenge them maybe without using strength and weight, right? So you got to be smart that way. So I'm trying to teach the students a cerebral style of jiu-jitsu where you're intelligent instead of just going in there try to hurt somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So it brings up interesting conversations when there's like confrontation between two students, which always comes out great in the end. Like everyone learned something.
Right.
Everyone
Right.
advanced. I find they advanced
Mm-hmm.
mentally. Their approach to jiu-jitsu, anyways. And it doesn't happen often, but like you said, you were asking.
Okay. So what about? I'm just trying to sort of enlarge the picture, right? Like, so you have been doing this for a long time. You started with Kyokushinkai karate. You've gone into BJJ. Somebody who's never done anything like this, their thinking just has never kind of overlapped, and hasn't doesn't see the appeal or whatever. So when people talk to you and they say, okay, well, like, what is it really like? Why? What's the payoff? What's the? I mean, of course, there's the fitness, because it's such a great over total full body workout where you're really pushing yourself 100%. But so, what is the other payoff?
Well, I think everyone's coming into jiu-jitsu to learn it for a different reason. One big one lately is mental health. It probably always was there, but I think during COVID and a lot of people really like depressed or anger issues, whatever. They, you know, it's a great stress release.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Really good. It brings you right into the moment, unlike any other sport. So I would say mental health is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And there's of course self-defense. People who've had situations, things happen to them, or maybe they're in their insecurity, or their police. They have to deal with pinning people.
Mm-hmm.
That's another good reason to learn jiu-jitsu for sure. I mean, the main reason is because we roll a lot. You get the experience of doing it live all the time, so it becomes easy and way less dangerous when you engage with somebody on the streets or in a hospital or
Mm-hmm.
jail.
Mm.
Um, so and just feeling confident. I think it gives people confidence. I mean, so like I have some students that got beat up. They're very timid people, and they're like, "Fuck, I gotta learn how to protect myself here."
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great way to like, you're gonna end up, if you're small and skinny, and you're gonna probably end up rolling with some big scary looking guy that has got some skill and like humble you, right? So I
Yeah.
think it helps you face some of your fears,
Yeah.
and that's huge value in that. So you can walk, you can, like you can walk around and feel good about yourself and not have to have that in the back of your mind all the time. Like, oh shit.
So yeah, this kind of brings up something that is really interesting to me, in the sense that, okay, so have you ever been to Asia? Have you been to Hong Kong?
I know. I wish, man. I wish.
Okay. Okay. So I'm in
Yeah.
Hong Kong. I'm back in Hong Kong, and you're in Vancouver. And so people who are outside of Canada find it hard to imagine that Canada isn't this totally peaceful, and it is. It generally is a very peaceful place, and and all this stuff. But I think most people don't realize that, like Vancouver has some pretty badass areas of town that are, not at all safe, and I think you'd be shocked at how safe Hong Kong is. Like, you could be a single woman walking around at 2 o'clock in the morning and not be, I mean, there is assault, but generally speaking, you've got like kids going by themselves, women just walking around at night by themselves. Like, personal safety
Really?
here is
Wow.
really, really high, way
That is
higher
cool.
than, yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. But in a place like Canada, it's like, it always shocks me at how tough life really is. And so, have you yourself, given your level of martial arts competence, face a situation where your own personal security was threatened? And what I try to explain to people is that when you have that extra ability, it just makes you like a lot calmer in a situation. So have you ever had a situation where things were getting really, really, really hot and intense, and then you just were able to kind of diffuse it?
Well, yes and no. I mean, when I was younger, in my 20s, street fights, I've been in a few, and that's just ego.
Yep.
It's just could be just someone looking at you funny, or they think you're looking at them funny, or
Yeah.
whatever, and you just get into a fight.
Yeah.
I mean, that happened for a bit, and then, and I remember at one point, I'm like, I'm walking away from anything.
Sure.
Unless there's a pure engagement, someone touched me and they're holding on, I'll do something about it. But otherwise, I don't care. Like, I've been sucker punched and stuff like that before. And where I was like, who did that? And I was ready to kill.
Yeah.
But I think even today, if someone came up to me and hit me and ran away, I'm not going to run after them.
No, of course.
I'm just gonna brush it off.
Right.
Someone would have to fully engage with me.
Yeah.
And that would be a self-defense situation, or maybe
Sure.
I need to help someone. Someone needs some help.
Yep.
I'll be there. But that's a lot of, I think, self-reflection and just ego. I think a lot of people think that learning a self-defense means now you can get into a fight and do well in a fight on the streets. There's merit to that. It's definitely not necessary. I much prefer to walk away from an actual fight.
Yeah.
Confrontation. I don't encourage it at all. Although I've been through a few situations, but I've grown quite a bit since.
So as a coach, right, as an instructor, when somebody comes to you and they're like, "Listen, man, I need help because I face this situation, or I anticipate facing this situation," how do you provide that coaching for them so that they feel like empowered to not have to escalate the situation, or how to walk away, or whatever it is? Like, how do you communicate with students, or have you communicated in the past?
Yeah, I do. I give them my story like I just told you right now. I tell them what I've gone through, and I tell them the reason with themselves. Use their brains. Emotions sometimes can really lead you to bad places. So I think it's a lot. It's just better to be smart about it, discuss it with somebody. Like, if they have problems with their confidence. But I think most of my students that have trained with me for a little while now, when we get into these type of discussions, they never fear confrontation at that point. I mean, they're constantly fighting in the gym. It's like not on your mind. It's like, if someone approached them to fight, they'd be probably like, "Shit, man, I'm tired. I just trained. Like, leave me alone."
They're just yeah.
Like, I just fought for about 2 hours. Just leave me alone.
Yeah.
Right. But I think for a beginner, like someone who's new, these discussions are really interesting because they don't know what kind of confidence they're about to learn.
Right.
They don't know what that's like, but it's gonna happen naturally.
Yeah.
It's not something that I can coach someone to do. It's just the confidence comes a little bit by itself. And in the meantime, all I can do is explain what I've gone through and with my situations, and just encourage them to be smart and aware of what's happening.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, Scott, I mean, I really appreciate your time and look, as we're talking, I'm looking at the photo of you teaching these moves within your class. Is there a plan for because I mean, in terms of like how COVID has hit the gym and all this stuff, but like what's the plan for the next little bit, other than your partnership with is it Northwest?
Yeah. Well, I think my plan is I'm going to definitely expand on what I'm teaching to the students. This is, I mean, I know you said besides Northwest, but bringing in Northwest is one of the benefits we're going to have is Brian has a curriculum that he uses that he calls the Basic 48. It's based on all the positions
Mm-hmm.
and with a series of moves and techniques that I'm going to start teaching the students. And now I have my own program, and I'm going to try to move mine around a little bit. So I got a lot of things to do to, because you see the Basic 48, what Brian has kind of fits like in the middle. It's
Mm-hmm.
like a few transitions to submissions and stuff like that, sweeps, and I'm going to do something for the raw beginner, but it's not just for beginners. It's more based on mechanics.
Right.
It's like transitions, short transitions, based on singular techniques like an armbar,
Mm-hmm.
an omoplata, how to do just the omoplata, and retention, especially like guard retention. I mean,
Right.
those are lessons that need to be taught at a very basic level. So developing my programs, like, I have a pretty big program right now that I use to teach the students, and I think I'm going to work pretty hard on making it better.
Great.
Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Scott.
Hey, no problem, man.
So let's just end by you promoting the website, then people can come check you out in Vancouver. So what's the website?
BUDOJujitsuTeam.com.
Wicked.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Oh, okay. Can I take a selfie with you? Is that cool?
Sure.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Like this. Like, hold on. Do you see yourself?
I only see the mic.
You only see the mic's in the way.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I don't need to see myself.
Shooting it raw?